Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're based in the world. Welcome again this week here. Hope you don't get tired of my face, and that's why I needed today Inga here with me to tell you a little bit about shape. So, hi Inga, nice to have you and helping me out.
Hello, everyone. Really, really glad to be on this webinar today and share some stories.
Indeed, and maybe while we get the chance for people to kind of like chime in, I mean, Inga, maybe I think it's pointless that I introduce you. Maybe you can introduce yourself first, right?
Yeah, so very glad to be here. I'm founder and CEO of ShapesXR, and probably most of the people who join this webinar are either our users or clients or anyone who considers to start building in VR. So the mission is to really make collaboration and creation in 3D a delightful thing, to really be up to speed, be creative, and become agile, to validate your ideas before you start implementing them. So this is why we've built ShapesXR and with the entire incredible team behind this product.
Right, and I'm adding now Michael to the stream because so that we also have the whole like we have business, we have our CEO, we have our product designer. So we do have a pretty good representation of what's happening behind the scene at Shapes. So hi Michael, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Actually, good point. Let's ask people, besides the fact how they are, right, and how, but like, is anybody that is now listening has used Shapes? Have you used Shapes? Have you used Shapes on a Quest Pro? Because that's another point. So one of the things that we're gonna do today also is share some color footage with ShapesXR with our retail demo. So, and that's something that I think is gonna help people to understand a little bit what to expect from this new generation of headset. And again, as usual, I think we are here to get the people to learn and get something out of it. So interrupt with questions, with anything that might pop up regarding shapes or regarding the headset or whatever that might be. So before introducing what we're going to do today, I think I will still want to give Michael the chance to introduce himself. Michael, who are you? What do you do at Shapes?
I am a product designer at ShapesXR, and I design our interfaces. I talk to our users. Particularly for this retail demo, I came up with sort of the concept, the interactions, and then used Shapes to actually design the spaces that ended up in the final demo.
Right. And this is a good bridge to tell you what we're going to do today. So first of all, we're going to tell a little bit about where Shape started, how it evolved, and what happened in this year. It launched 11/11, 2021, so not even 1 year ago. And now ShapesXR, or a demo version of ShapesXR, is available in Best Buy all over the US. So, and what we are going to share with you is what was the process that led to the results that many people now can experience in the store, so that people, designers that are here with us, can learn how to actually iterate, share their ideas, and in general also take advantage of a powerful tool like ShapesXR. So I have here, by the way, and thanks Andre for popping in. Hi from Toronto, nice to have you here. And indeed, I'm still curious, is anybody had the chance to try Shapes on a Quest Pro? By the way, we got amazing avatars. There is some mind-blowing stuff in there. So let us know what your first initial thoughts are. But so let's start with a question, maybe for Inga first, right? So we launched, as we said, around not even 1 year ago. What happens since then, and what has changed?
So that's a great question. It's close to 12 months ago when we launched our ShapesXR product. And, we've been pretty sure that there is a big pain designing for XR on flat screen. So we were brave enough to say that it's even like not adequate to do it that way, right? So flat screen is not enough, regardless if you're using 2D collaborative tools or you use single mode 3D tools. And I think that this hypothesis that we had on launch proved itself, because I think initially ShapesXR was adopted by indie developers and XR teams and XR products that today are releasing on store, and those that were already on store. And that is very, very inspiring. So I saw a tweet from, and like call out to Andre from Meta, who actually tweeted that, they see more and more pitches of XR teams happening in ShapesXR. But that was our initial vision. We have to replace, PowerPoint or other ways when we try to explain our complex ideas that have something to do with the user space around and some interactions in a more vivid way. Since we launched, I think we've built a community that is really motivate us to move forward. We crystallized our use cases, even though they're pretty broad and to some extent horizontal. Close to 300,000 spaces have been created, and this is incredible because that each space is like a prototype. It's like something very big because you have also 25 stages inside it. And I'm very happy with like the engagement that we see on the platform and retention of our users who are to some extent professionals. The number of collaborative sessions is growing, which is also very inspiring because people are eager to brainstorm, to imagine what they're building and then to test it. And, that's pretty cool. We doubled our team, lots of things have happened, like during these 12 months. So
indeed. And on the other side, I mean, not necessarily on the other side, right? So, but throughout this year, would that be something that you would have done differently? Because it sounds all nice and good, right? But would that be something that maybe, and it's not necessarily bad, but just different, right?
You remember when before launch, we had lots of discussions within the team. Should we actually ask people for emails like immediately? So we decided that, we want to become the industry standards. We wanted to make super easy with zero friction for anyone to just, launch Shapes and start trying it. And only if they feel that it's something very, very valuable for their pipeline, then we get in touch and get the email. So that was, let's say, something that we thought should be the right thing to go. And we still have it that way. So you can still download Shapes for free. We don't ask you for email. So we started to ask you, but you can skip it if you don't want. And there are definitely pros and cons in this. And I don't know if we would be changing our mind and do authorization, because it's also brings friction, right? So you have to give someone email, create the password, and people start sending you messages and emails. Probably you're not even sure that this is something you need. So that was done on purpose, but that definitely probably slowed down communication with our users. And we are now inventing new ways to get in touch with our community. And for power users, people who actually bring something in Shapes and sharing externally, we now actually ask for email. So this is one thing that is always a trade-off. And it was something that, we want to make the barrier as low as possible, but we pay the price for it. Another thing but then it's about the product design,
But,
because,
okay.
Yeah.
So let me hold you there because there are some people that already start popping in with some questions. Jason saying,
cool.
Deutschland, looking forward to hearing more about this amazing journey. And Jason, if you have a question, please go ahead and type it. You're curious. This is the moment to ask. There is indeed a question from Jason that usually I wanted to keep this at the end, but hey, I mean, questions are questions that need to be addressed. So I'm curious about the additional features planned for ShapesXR with the increased performance of the Quest Pro. Also possible Unity integration. So first of all, let me also say one thing first. So I'm not sure exactly what you refer, Jesse, for Unity integration. So what you have created in Shapes, you can directly export into Unity with a plugin, something you can check on our Learn section of our webpage. So that is already possible, but I'm not sure this is exactly what you are referring to. That being said, who wants to take this regarding performance on the Quest Pro? I have some thoughts, but Michael, go ahead.
So with the increased performance on the Quest Pro, so at least for developers, the Quest Pro comes with some increased performance with the XR2 Plus processor, but it isn't like that much higher than the Quest 2. And also there are additional cameras that it's powering with the face and eye tracking. So it kind of ends up balancing out where the guidelines from Meta were like, hey, like don't expect extra performance and expect like that it should all work on the Quest 2. So due to having to be backwards compatible and just because it kind of cancels out, you kind of end up with the same amount of power accessible to developers for apps on the device.
Yeah, so I can add here that, again, like adding avatars with face tracking actually takes lots of performance and colored mixed reality as well. So it's not, as Michael said, a tremendous increase. And a quick note about Unity integration. Yeah, so if you want to have all stages and the entire space open in Unity, you can use a plugin. But if you really want to get scale of the model and size of the model, you can still export just GLTF of your, let's say, several models and import that to Unity for the right proportions and stuff like that. So this is the integration we have. So it's a plugin to open the entire space with all stages, or you can export just kind of models.
Right. And I have also another question from Eugenia. She asks, curious if you share the future of product the future product direction. A lot of people are still prototyping in tools like Blender or Unity. Curious how ShapesXR is planning to differentiate and innovate.
Yeah. So this is a favorite question, by the way, because you are hearing this from all type of audiences, from clients, from developers, from investors, from everyone. So I really loved, and I want to do this call out again to Daniel Robbins, ex-Meta designer, now with Adobe. I really loved how he said once that, why do you think of Unity as a kind of design tool? It's implementation engine. So you already know what you're building and you start implementing it. Of course, when it comes to high-end prototyping, definitely it's totally about that. So the way we see it and why, we're also Unity developers, right? But why we build ShapesXR for our own team is that, okay, in Blender, 3D artist can start ideating just on his own, and it will take weeks because it's complex, it takes time. No one other from the team can actually contribute at all to this process. We can just wait and, verbally inspire this person. As for just doing this in Unity, it's also not collaborative. It's 3D, but it's like you start coding and you invest time into high-end prototype. The whole idea of Shapes is that, we only implement validated ideas, meaning that, it's as accessible that very diverse team can meet together in Shapes with only 2D skills, or like product owner. You can even bring domain expert, for example, who has nothing to do about creation, but knows like something about this domain. And you ideate, you imagine it together, what you're going to build. Then build different types of that. It's still low poly prototyping. Bring and test it. And we will show this, how we build this retail demo, test it. And only that one that has best UX, most delightful user journey, right? So, and you love, then you start implementing it in Unity. So it's really about uniting
not
more
competition
talent.
In a way. Yes, exactly. It's like every tool takes different parts of the process, and there is a time for Unity, there is a time for 3D modeling, there is a time to make idea, test variants quickly. So I think it's a flow.
Yeah, and it's also from like moving from like just Unity, like 4 to 4 low process to be super agile. And also like you don't feel upset when you have to throw your ideas in Shapes because you spent hour on it, right? And you become much more creative. And finally, after 10 iterations, you come with something really sparkling. And if you code it, I don't know if you're happy to throw anything away because it's just
or maybe
very
it's too late.
expensive.
Maybe it's too late. So now there is one question that I hate to share, but because I think that Michael is going to love this, and it's the following. I know from attending other session that you're working on a new color palette, ETA. So again, people are asking for a new color palette. We had some kind of like frictional conversation with Michael about that regarding the importance. I think
it's coming. It is coming, I promise.
It is, it's the ShapesXR became a little bit kind of complex tool already, right? And it's not just the color tool, like with a variety of and customized colors. It actually impacts lots of things that we have with all the different materials and how we work with objects. So it's a more kind of complex task, but we totally prioritize it because, people are pushing the barriers of what they can do, and it's become important that they have this flexibility. And there is a nice second part of the question about more diversified humanoids model in ShapesXR. Yeah, so
the thing is that let's also remember that you can always import your own models in Shapes. So you can import your OBJ. So in this case, if you have a 3D model of someone with different body size or a child or whatever you want, you can always import it in. So in this way, what we provide is what we really think is the absolute minimum. And then we do encourage people to also use your own low poly models that you can get on Sketchfab, on poly.pits. I always like to recommend that. But in general, that is a point. So something that I just wanted to share, because people might sometimes not even know and be aware they can import their own stuff, right? That's another
And
point.
can I ask a question? I mean, just eager to know. You can later on we can review that. So do you think that it will be available for you to have a puppet that you can pose like, you know, in Shapes when you're prototyping for AR? Because Gabriel, it's not going to be expensive for us to have it, like performance-wise and everything, but we're not sure, like.
The follow-up comments from Andre was more about diversity. So I don't think that having a puppet would solve any of that, right?
Yeah.
That's my first immediate thing. But of course, then I think it's a different thing, right? So it's a puppet. It serves a different need, doesn't solve the problem of the poses. It's more about the diversity.
So then it's like different proportions and such. So yeah, this is a very good point. So we should do that probably.
Right. Like, so let's now talk about. Let's start maybe moving into the topic of the retail demo. And of course, guys, as I'm saying, so if you have any other questions, shoot them here. I think that Michael and Inga will be more than happy to actually answer those. But we do also want to show you some kind of like footage from the headset. So let's start first, maybe introducing this retail demo. How did that happen, Inga? I mean, what was it about? And then we can start showing maybe some footage. Maybe what we can do. Sorry, do you think maybe I can prepare so that while maybe you talk, so let's do that.
So the idea was that, you know, Quest Pro was going to go to retail stores, and you need to have some kind of apps running on this device. So, and basically we were glad enough to work with Meta on like, can we show ShapesXR on Quest Pro in those retail stores? But you can imagine when you are in Best Buy, can you really relax that such? And do you have really 1 hour to be super creative, to build some prototypes and have come, you know, to the store with an idea? It was clear that we need something very simple and probably guided and more like narrative type of experience rather than just ShapesXR as a creation platform. Also because you can't collaborate with anyone during, you know, testing the device in store. And so this is how we started to brainstorm with Michael and Gabriel and the team, you know, thinking how we can show creation and how powerful 3D creation is in VR, like have that part of shapes as a tool, but at the same time make some narrative experience that people can complete within meaningful time, like 10 minutes. Because again, like when you are standing in Best Buy, it's about something kind of short in time and with some narrative around. And this is how we started brainstorm actually in Shapes, right, Michael? Are you still with us?
I think he dropped.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. So your camera froze for a sec.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So the great thing was that we had a chance to ideate in ShapesXR, and we will show this to you. But what was even more important, we still had to get approval from Meta that they are happy to have this exact experience running on Quest Pro. And we had to get their approval before we build it. So, and this is when we were using ShapesXR as our own team as a pitching tool. So we've built several prototypes and pitched those to Meta and got their approval. And they only checked it in Shapes. So they came, they played it through stages, and they said, yeah, this looks pretty amazing. And then only we started to develop that. So
yeah, it was really cool because like when we were describing it, they're like, that sounds kind of cool. And then we showed it to them. They're like, oh, this is awesome. Like, that's what you meant. Like, oh, yes.
And that's, I think, 90% of the conversation that happens before a project actually starts. We're like, yeah, are you sure about that? Yeah, sounds good. And I think that's what I hear a lot from kind of like studios or agencies that are working with clients, they're like going on trust, right? And that is a risky thing because trust at the end also costs money and time. So I think that's very described very well how a lot of these projects actually evolve. So what do you think? I start playing this, and then we can show a little bit about the process, how that went, and then we can then go in Shapes together later. What do you think?
Yeah, totally.
Let's do that. So I'm gonna share my screen now and get here. I think now you see this. So this is basically the color pass-through from the Oculus Quest Pro. And what I'm gonna do now, I am going to launch the retail demo. And here I am. And so the first thing is kind of like this one moment. I mean, who wants to do the voiceover, guys? Should I do it?
I can voice over this. It's kind of, I mean, you're supposed to have a desk. So this is a mixed reality experience. Like Quest Pro had this colored pass-through. And what you get at Best Buy is also the mixed reality experience. Again, we had to make sure that anyone can try it and go to the end without any issues. So we have this kind of onboarding.
Unsupervised.
Yes, unsupervised, because again, it's crazy in a big store. So, and this is the tutorial that we teach you how to grab things and how to move. And then we will show you the prototype of that one in Shapes. Like you just repeat these movements and you spend time on that. Then you learn how to use the brush tool and write comments or design. So it's all about like spirit of how Shapes works.
One of the limitations is like in the store, we don't know the audio level, for example. So we couldn't we couldn't have audio prompts, and we didn't want to have a lot of text either, because then we would have to localize it depending on the country that the demo would be shown in. So we wanted something that was as visual as possible.
And then we have 3 different options for people to pick. I think that Gabriele is streaming now, and it's kind of far away. You don't probably see it. But basically we said, people are different. We want to have very diversified experiences. And we have more like office one. We have more like Jurassic Park type of thing and space. So probably we can show the office one to prototype. So, and this is how it starts basically. So it's about showing like how creation in VR works. So you actually can grab things, you can put them, and it's so different from how you would do that on flat screen. So that was the idea. We still want you to understand that in VR, you behave pretty much the same like you would behave in the real world, right? So then we propose you to add some details, like to model or sketch, a little bit. And you can keep populating. So the reason we already have this pre-made model with some assets in is to make sure that no one gets stuck of what they're supposed to do. So we show you that, okay, you can add details. So like Gabriele is doing it right now, and decorate this office. And again, it's about like, I'm creating, I feel creative, and it's so easy. But the power of VR is that at any point of time, your big model can become a dollhouse, or you can become small and everything is at human scale. And this is why we propose this teleportation feature. So once you build something, you can teleport and explore at actual scale, which is usually like this first time VR users when they say, wow, right? Because again, it's hard to experience this looking at flat screen. You can only experience that when you're standing and everything is huge around you. And then you can keep teleporting, you can keep exploring. And at any point of time, you can go back to the menu and try another experience. Probably, Gabriele, we can show space one. And the idea was that anyone like at Best Buy can play with it for like 10 minutes. And still, it's creation, it's designing at scale, checking your design at actual scale, and Michael.
Yeah, it's like how to show like the magic of shapes and also show off like kind of like the magic of pass-through mixed reality as well as virtual reality, which was kind of like what we saw as the selling point of the Quest Pro.
Exactly. Of course, I was like, keep arguing, like, this is such a simplified version of Shapes. Shapes is so powerful.
And
But,
I'm
you know,
like,
at the end,
I'm like, Inga, they have 8 minutes, and they are
yes.
like, this is like, you know, it's like parents and kids going into Best Buy and like being like, oh, what's that?
Yeah. So, and that's why we, of course, skipped much of the creation capabilities of the actual tool. But anyway, so this is, we hope, is pretty inspiring for people to see VR from creation perspective. I get some echo, not sure why. Yeah, and this is one other demo, and with kind of this space exploration.
And I think we invite everybody to go. And if you're really looking forward to it, go to Best Buy and then try the Western scene. You know. So, are we? Is there anything that's specific that we want to show here? I don't think so, right?
So just remember, so we will now go to Shapes, and we want to actually prove, so this is the whole idea of that you can build a prototype in Shape that is super helpful for final development. And this looks like very close to your final experience. Gabriele already closed it, but you saw a table that appears in mixed reality. You saw some menu. You saw those kind of UI with 3 different demos. And yeah, so we actually assembled this initially in Shapes, and only after that, you know, coded that in Unity, and we can come to the process about it.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, I mean, if you have any questions regarding how this was created, or maybe some of the design decisions, please go ahead and share them here. More than happy then to share them with both Michael and Inga. And more importantly, Michael, who I think was one of the person under, let's say, with the responsibility to create this. I think it's always good to hear firsthand from actual real product that reach tens of thousands of people. So that is great. So should we all go in? What do you guys think?
Sure. Yeah. And even though I do have this piece of hardware, I will use from Quest 2, just to prove that, you know, even for, I think that still the majority of our user base is Quest 2 today. We do hope that you can at some point start exploring Quest Pro features. But we already have avatars here, and probably you check the latest update. So I will appear with my avatar, hopefully.
And talking about latest updates, I think something that... Michael, what? What do you say?
This stands with our Quest 2 users.
Yes, I do. I mean, I do stand with you.
So I just got one remark for anybody listening. So one of the things that we added besides is any Quest Pro functionality was, of course, avatar, but then also a new onboarding videos that actually people can check. So it's on our top right. Actually, let me. It's here. So it's there. So we got actually a new tutorial series made of 6 videos where our master instructor, Jeremy, will actually guide you through explaining and help building a prototype actually really together. So I really encourage you to try it out because if you want to learn and you want to upskill and get started with your career in XR, it's really a great starting point to learn everything that Shapes has to offer. So we are going, I think, to, let's see if I have got this right.
R&D choice. At least I'm waiting you here.
01, correct?
I don't see 01, so that's why I'm just in R&D choice. But please let me know if that's wrong.
There was an R&D choice 1. That's, I think, the one. Michael, where are you?
Oh, I do see it. Okay, I'm here.
Hello, Inga.
Hello.
So let me go in pass-through view. And here we got Inga in my living room, and we got as well Michael.
Let me stay here so that people can see. Michael, open your eyes on Quest Pro. I want to see your emotions, excitement. Yeah, so you don't see like that much of emotions on my face because I'm from Quest Pro, but anyway, it's so much different, you know, with avatars coming to meetings like this.
Right. So, Michael, we are here starting on stage 1. So why don't you guide us through the beginning, some of the initial decisions that you have got. Let me just mute myself. Let's make everybody also mute themselves in Shapes.
Should I talk in the in here?
Yeah, you can go ahead, and I'm gonna follow you through the steps. So
Okay, great. So on stage 1, we have a blank table. And essentially it's kind of like, this is like a little previs of like little animation from the sides.
Right.
It essentially turns into a bubble. And then from stage 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you see the bubbles turn into the locations. So then on stage 11, you see your choices.
Right. So now let me tell you one thing, because there was also a question from a user who asked specifically this, right? And it says, static design is great in shapes, but for interaction design, we need to look at animation also. Will it be possible to create or import animation in the future? Now, this is a
I
very
am
fair
glad
point.
you asked, Sinek.
Let
me tell you what I was working on today. I can't tell you, but it's related.
But to some extent, you can tell. I mean, we are going to talk a little bit about our roadmap and what's coming next. So it's not such a secret.
Yeah.
So, Michael, what have you been working on that you can share so far?
Yeah, we've been working on interactions and being able to essentially link together stages.
Yeah.
So being able to create buttons essentially in shapes. And the other thing is being able to create simple animations so that you can make these so you can do the kinds of transitions between 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 via timer. And so that way you can have your animations in your prototypes without having to kind of try to explain it by words or show it or record it.
Right. On the other hand,
we're seeing people do in shapes. But now, like the way we work is when the more we, if we hear about a feature from multiple people, from multiple different sources, we're able to prioritize it better, and then it goes up on our list. And because there's always like 100 different things we're trying to build at the same time. And it's
I mean, it's like we definitely, Gabriel, and I think you can keep showing the prototype, because I think we're stuck on some kind of boring stages. But coming to animation and, I mean, user testing is a huge deal for us. So we do believe that you should have a chance to test your prototype with Quest owners if you're building for VR or AR, for example, before you code it, right? So with that said, we understand that the staging system today is like a stop motion, right, animation. So you go through kind of slides and you talk through your UX. In the future, we want you to enable with non-linear interactions when you can really run user tests even more efficiently. So that's the vision we have, to go from imagination, building like low poly design and having this, let's say, prototype, to more kind of a little bit more high fidelity by actually being able to play it, like bring your users in and play through different states and different triggers, and experience the product before you build it. So that's why interaction with some timeline is coming soon.
Indeed. And I still want to say, though, that, I mean, if you're there communicating, depending on, let's say, how deep you want to go, I mean, this, you could have built the whole prototype in one space, but here we take a deliberate decision that what we wanted to show, or what it looks like, Michael, then correct me if I'm wrong, it's really like, how does this experience actually gets introduced at the most basic level? Because here there is a square that turns into a circle, turns into something 3D that floats, and gives 3 options. So that is actually almost 100% how the animation looks now in the actual retail demo, right? So I think that, yes, you might need animations, and there are many ways of doing and communicating that purpose, right? So, and I think this
it's what's called a blockout, essentially, because then when the animation's being developed, you're essentially like, hey, here's like they're not keyframes, but these are the essential frames and states of the animation. And then in your animation tool, you actually do the animating in between them.
Gabriel, why don't you go any time further than stage 19 to show the actual table? Yeah. Because I want to...
I'd be happy to talk about once you've selected the experience.
Right. I'm here. I'm ready. Yes.
No. Go further. Go to stage... Oh, you're still there. Okay.
I showed the whole prototype of this part anyway. I went through the whole thing already.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the thing Gab just went through. So essentially, this is and then the second part of this is the transition in between. So once you've selected an experience, the idea was the bubble returns to the table. We kind of have a reverse of the loading
Right.
animation. And then what happens is the idea was that the initial environment grows in and
Right.
the tools kind of swing in. And the idea was to use this swing in animation kind of gives the user's attention to the new controls that are now in front of them. And it's
Right.
important because these are where the interactions are going to be. So having this sort of swing in animation brings the user's attention to like, oh, there's something that swung in here. Something has
Right.
changed about the table.
Right. Right.
And here I wanted to make some remark of how the designers worked with developers in this. And I mean, we had really, really few resources available. So it was Michael, it was some 3D artist, Victor, who did this modeling. There is some echo, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I think
So,
all of us should meet ourselves in Shapes.
And and this table that you see like close, we also have like, probably this is not the exact space, it was also built in more details. So what the developer did, actually, he exported this table with all the tools shown and some pre-made models at the right scale as GLTF file and imported that to Unity and was building the initial state machine based on this, but having all the right proportions and size. But I think we had a different space where this is more high fidelity type of table model.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
We can. Yeah, it's actually kind of cool. We have like we can show in specific.
Guys, Inga, can you move somewhere else? You are very close to Michael. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, we can show in one of the later spaces some of the actual final demo. We essentially have basically we have spaces in Shapes that the demo itself draws from. And so it's actually pulling from shape spaces for the demo itself.
Yeah.
Right.
We made a copy because if we touch those spaces, the entire demo breaks.
So we are not going to touch it, but let's go to the next thing. So what you're seeing here, guys, maybe for anybody who doesn't know, these are portals. So by clicking on this, we are automatically going to a new space that is basically the next step in this prototype. So I'm going to click on it. And then the space is going to load, and then we are going to be going in a new space. Right. And by the way, Michael, Thomas is saying, I love this swinging UI. So Thomas, thanks. I think that's appreciated.
Gabriel, can you make sure that everyone see exactly this table because you can't see the tools?
Okay, wait a second. So I have another question. Is Andrea is also asking, the avatars makes the cooperative work so much more natural. Can't wait for legs.
We are not sure that legs would be that helpful when you're really designed together, but probably
Indeed. So that is a fair point. So legs in our case, it's going to be tricky because can you please start flying on top and go up?
Yeah.
Yes. So what's going to happen to Inga's leg at some point? So I'm curious. But so this is our table. This is our table, the one that basically Michael was referring to. And can you guide us through again, Michael, since you did such a great job first?
Sure. So we're on slide 1. So on the left side here, we essentially have our building blocks, our Legos. Mm-hmm. And on the right, we have a little color palette and a draw tool. Right. And you might remember from Gab's videos that this is more or less what the final demo ended up looking like. The only real difference is that in this prototype, we actually have a blank space. And so this is one of the things that really changed from the original prototype from the original design to the final build was that we have, all the spaces have almost templatized. But I can now walk through. So the idea is that the user, in Shapes, we kind of, spaced out in size, to make sure that everything was easily grabbable. And so you walk through slides 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then time kind of it almost acts like a time lapse as you slide through 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, yada, 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 up until 19, essentially. So we see slide through 18, we see the user lay out all the different, different I guess objects or props is what they call
Props. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, props in the scenario. And what we realized is that, like, you know, props, there's only so many that we ended up with. We were like, oh, it's actually maybe better if we lay out some of the props for them. And so, like, in the final retail demo, you can actually move everything that's in there. Like, in theory, if you wanted to, you could throw everything away and you could start with a blank slate for any super creative users.
Right.
And then so in 18, we have the picking up of the pen tool. And, you know, here it's like, oh, what if I drew a little lightning bolt? It's in slide 21.
Right. So I can also use our own creative tool here just to give an impression. So I have my own, and I am 19. There is a lightning bolt. I'm also going to add one here. Oh, I don't like this one. Yes, like this looks much better. What do you think, Inga?
It looks cool. I was keep drawing something, but I realized that I was still on stage too. So no one could see that.
I cannot say choose your masterpiece. Where is it?
I just threw it away. I actually tried. Thank you for joining the sits. Thank you for joining the webinar. So that was something like that. Anyway.
And by the way, we see Michael making some changes. He was not happy about some parts of the UI.
Too late, Michael.
I just realized it kicks off the teleport, but there's no teleport button. That makes no sense.
You see, making changes in real time. That's the way we do it.
I swear I'm a good designer. Yeah. And then I can show you the final. So the final component of the whole thing was like, okay, well, now that we've built this little maquette, right? Was where we started. It was like, oh, what if it's like a cool little building tool? And then I think where it really became like awesome was, I think, once we had the final component, which is the ability to teleport into it.
Right. So
on slide 25, we have the link, but I can bring it over to slide 23.
I am at 25. I'm here with you.
Me either. I already joined this space. Yeah.
Let's see if there are any questions. Let's see. So people are seeing some some madness in right now, and it might sometimes for some might be kind of like hard. What actually is happening? So maybe for anybody that is tuning in, so this is ShapesXR is a design and prototyping tool for XR, for AR and VR apps. And what you're seeing is me, Inga, and Michael in 3 different locations spread all over the world that are working in showing and presenting what is the retail demo for ShapesXR, something that right now many people can try in Best Buys all over the US. And this is what we actually pitched and share with Meta in order to, let's say, give them an idea of how this was going to look like, so that we could kind of like get approved and then start actually the development process. So everything that is in here happened without code before any developer was involved. It was the work of 3D artists, storyteller, designers, business people as well. In a way, yeah. I mean, it's also a bit of us, right? We added a little bit to it.
Oh, I criticize a lot. I love to join the ShapesXR. Gabriele, I think if you can zoom yourself a little bit, like scale, and then also like make stages visible from UI, so it will be clearer for people what is happening. You see, we have kind of 3D slides when we can show how the prototype is working. So, and then Michael can guide. This was the whole idea, like how the teleport should work in this experience, how we can explain to developer how it's going to work.
Right. So the interaction and the animation are mocked up using what you see here. Thanks, Inga, for reminding me. There is this stage system that allows basically to move forward and forward as if there were these kind of like 3D frames of a storyboard. So, Michael, floors is yours again.
Cool. Let me go back to slide 1. So, you know, we had a few different ideas of where to put a teleport button. We're like, what if it's on the hand, or what if it's like a gesture? And then we're like, you know, what if it's a big old button that says teleport on it? Because otherwise people might not notice it. So it's a big old button that says teleport on it in the middle. And we found that worked the best. And so you click on the button. And once you click on the button in stage 2, essentially, so in the like we wanted it so the idea in the design was that you could choose a point on the space where you could teleport, which you see me choosing on 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see that.
And then slide 5, we 5, 6, 7, we show the cancellation of the teleport.
Gabriel, probably you take the position of Michael, because I think from this angle, people don't really see how interactions are happening.
Yep.
So it's much better like this, yeah. And again, go from, yeah. So we actually simulate how this people will be interacting and teleporting in mixed reality in the app. And we also explained it to developers who were then building this, yeah.
So then we kind of repeat the process from 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we see from 11 to 12, you press the trigger, and that activates the teleport. And then on slide 13, essentially the whole world gets bigger and you're teleported inside. And so now you've essentially teleported into your creation, right? You're inside of it, the environment changes, you're in the thing that you've created. And then you can, and then the ray is always active to indicate to you that you can continue teleporting. You can move your hand around, teleport, continue teleporting. And then on slide 20, you show the interaction to go back to the table, and that basically has the same button, but it floats on your wrist.
Right. Here we go.
Click on it again, and bam, you're back.
So, and now we are back. So indeed, I think it's so fascinating, this sudden switch between VR and mixed reality. It's still like a mind-blowing effect to me.
Yeah, we have an awesome we actually have an awesome effect in it in the actual app with like the transition in between, like, it does the like the I don't know how to, the shoo.
I don't know what it is. Excellent.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? I mean, I'm out of headset for a second. Sorry for my hair.
Oh no!
So,
oh my God.
Yeah, it's like we are saying that ShapesXR shapes communication between designers and developers. So the first thing I did, like after we completed this demo, and again, we had something like 3 weeks and, I don't know, 10 hours a week from designer and a little bit time of our 3D model. It was really kind of, okay, can we build this quickly in Shapes? And I asked our developer, Vadim, like, was it helpful for you? Oh, there is an echo. Someone has to mute in Shapes. So was it helpful for you to get, first of all, the model, like this table with entire menu in Unity? And was it helpful for you to actually see how the experience is going to work, on these stages? And he said, like, I even can't imagine if you would share with me the Figma board, I can build anything. It's number one. And even if you would do some video where you would be explaining something, it will be so much more effort extensive, because here I have the scale, I have everything, I clearly understand how the states are changing, what are the triggers. And so, yeah, I think that in these exact projects, we just proved to our own team that prototyping in Shapes is very helpful to shrink the development time and make this communication between designer and developer much more transparent and clear, and save lots of time. Yeah. But guys are playing, so they will probably stay there forever. At least you should switch the space. I mean, we're already tired of this,
No, I mean, there was Michael driving a golf car. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay. Let's get out. Let's get out here and let's answer any other.
I think there was a question about roadmap, and we have like 10
Right,
minutes left.
absolutely. We do have still 15
So
minutes.
we mentioned for you that user test is very important for us, and that's why we understand the super mega importance of building more interactive prototypes, which is, again, non-linear prototyping. We extensively tested with our users today. If you want to get access to that build, reach out to us. That would be amazing, because the only acceptance criteria for us that we do not screw up how accessible Shapes is. We don't want to make it super complex. Another thing that, color tool, we think about it a lot. We will definitely dedicate time, but again, it has to be delightful at the end, and it's a pretty complex task. Coming to another big thing that I can kind of talk a little bit now, we feel unhappy, honestly, when the metaverse is being designed in 2D. And probably this is indeed the cheapest way today in terms that, we are fluent with those tools and we know how to do it. But eventually we should try kind of change the mindset, because I mean, we expect magic, we expect next generation of user interfaces, we expect something new in how we interact, and this has to be inspiring for people to spend time in AR glasses or VR headset, and it's so beneficial. But we understand that it's a different mental model and everything is new. And if you're a Figma designer, for example, you not just have to change to another tool. No, you have to change everything. You have to wear a headset. You have to change your mouse and keyboard to controllers. And to make it kind of more inspiring and easier, we plan to work on Figma integration. And probably you will start from just checking your 2D panels in VR, how they look, if the scale is right. But once you start spending time, and if you're an XR designer, if you're building for VR and AR, we don't think that there is way back for you. And but anyway, so we appreciate and we do understand that 2D will be part of that journey for quite a while, and we just want to help you feel comfortable. So that's another important roadmap thing together with interactivity, like to help 2D designers to start exploring, especially those who consider XR career or those who already build metaverse, but using just 2D tools. We know that import can be improved, and you expect more variety probably of, more smooth experience, bringing models in shapes, and also like have more formats. So this is in our timeline as well, in the nearest timeline.
And by the way, Inga, I do have, first of all, there was Andrea saying, by the way, the teleport function is great. My arms are not as tired now. We consider this as a defeat because this was supposed to be a fitness app. We want people to spend time and stuff. No, Andrea, that's great. I think that's good.
And here, if any developer team are joining us now, I also want to share some appreciation with Meta guys. How we work together to deploy product on store. We were meeting with Meta team like every 2 weeks, and we were showing ShapesXR in ShapesXR. So different people from Meta, like our release managers, developer relations people, while joining us in Shapes, they were saying, your locomotion is a little bit kind of, what if you have teleportation? And I was always angry, like, why do you ask teleportation? You're not designers, you don't understand, you need to scale. But actually they were right. I mean, because it's not only designers who are using ShapesXR, and if your world is huge, it's so much easier to teleport. So at some point we realized, why are we actually arguing? We totally need teleportation. So that's why it's like amazing that we can meet in Shapes with our users, with other people, and get this feedback firsthand. So
yeah, absolutely. I have 2 more questions. So
I
one
always
is
thought we needed teleportation.
of course.
But you joined after launch, so I mean, we were not probably that smart
That's true,
to know that.
So there was a question from Jesse that I think I'm going to get. It says, are there any specific industry are excited to see implement ShapesXR beyond XR software companies? Yes. I think that anything that is around, for example, service design or user experience for example, services, real-world products are all industries that could leverage. I mean, technically, anybody that is making a storyboard, right? Anybody that needs to tell a story about people interacting, moving in space, and doing something. We have a great example of this is Logitech, right? So Logitech have created their real-world venue and designing, coming up with ideas that then were basically some of which were implemented in the final event in Berlin for their Logitech G team. Just to give you an example, they said, hey, but what if there is, for example, a robot that lifts keyboard, right? How can we make a challenge that we have people engaging in this fun activity when they are there at the venue? So they recreated this and they could pitch that idea in 3D to the Logitech G team. So the point here
Gabriele, with Logitech, so we met the designer recently in LA at Adobe Max, and he told like, I even kind of refurnished my house in ShapesXR. I actually, and this is like, okay, after you designed a huge scale gaming real world event, why don't you refurnish your house, So it's really anything that is 3D and where user interacts with space around.
Right. There is another question from Thomas. He's saying, once we have interaction, this will blow up. I'm waiting for this to introduce service concept to our core clients. Stages are good for a pitch, but interaction will put some control in their hands. And here I have a follow-up question, Thomas. How would you want to do it? Right? Because there are many ways of putting controls in the hands of, you mentioned controlling their hands, in this case, like corporate clients. How would you want to do it? Because creating something interactive, it is I wouldn't say it's a challenge, it's part of the process, right? But creating something interactive then is different than sharing it or having other people experience it. So this is something I think some of the research, some of understanding that we are now doing, because that is all part of the same picture, right? So maybe Thomas, you can tell us a little bit, because we are working right now. Michael, maybe you could share a bit some of the, because we also have done some testing. Maybe you can share something about it, about the interaction system that we are building.
Yeah, I mean, the way it would work is you'd be able, I mean, it would depend on the prototype you're building, but it would work on, you'd be able to essentially link different stages together. So like,
Right.
let's say you make a button and you're like, okay, I want it, when they hover on this button, it'll go to this stage. When they click on this button, it'll go to another stage. Or if I go to this stage, it'll, on a timer, it'll wait this many seconds, boom, and it'll take me to another stage.
So if you are talking about like asynchronous corporate clients pitching, so they will be able, to click, and like in Viewpoint, they will be at right scale and they just, test your thing. But
Right,
the way
so
we
you can
didn't mention something amazing. I mean, if you checked already our new sample with our own Michael pitching your stuff, it's his avatar recorded and pitching to you. And that was really, I believe, a game changer, for this remote presentations. And again, so we call it Holo Notes. And soon enough, you will be able to record yourself in Shapes and pitch your idea. So it's not just on interactive prototype, but you can explain how to go through this experience. And I believe that this will be opening a huge opportunity when you are presenting your prototypes to your users.
Right. And this is a point. So Thomas, I think it's very much in line what we're building with what you just mentioned down there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's
in theory, you could just, as long as you keep your trigger simple, you'd be able to, keep it. You just like, oh, button, click, boom.
Yeah.
That's it.
But
And
with
by
a
the way,
timer.
there was one thing that Jesse's saying, Shapes will revolutionize the sales role. I can't wait to give a sales pitch in ShapesXR. Yes, that's the point. That is the point.
That's Gabriele lit up.
But because everybody's there with PowerPoints, and you have this innovation thing spread all over the world, that they're pitching things, and what they pitch is basically very often a PowerPoint slide, or maybe put people in an outspace environment, and that's good for the first experience because give them an impression, but then people are going to ask for then what can I do, what can you build for me, right? And you need to have the ability to start creating stuff and to pitch.
And we do have examples when Shapes is being used as pre-sales tool.
Yeah, and look, we have Jason also asking about our Figma integration. Cool. How do you see the Figma integration? I guess the minimum is allowing the frames, which are 2D, but we also try to go as far as adding volume for 3D UI elements.
I guess, what do you mean by 3D UI elements? Like, in theory, because what we imagine is like once you've brought your 2D Figma frames, you would create 3D UI elements and shapes. But do you mean like marking off, like designating elements in Figma as 3D elements and then converting them into 3D UIs? Because that would be probably not, I guess, is the answer.
We are very early stage in discovering how this Figma integration is going to work. So I want to be very transparent here. And we do plan to dedicate significant amount of time to design sprints and discovery interviews with designers who will have this pipeline of Figma and Shapes and then something else, and then probably back. And that's why if you're interested, your input would be highly appreciated. Again, we are dedicating really quality time to think of this integration, to make it really useful, and like with very low barrier, like volunteer to help us with user tests, with discovery interviews, and we would love to learn from you.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to know how you want to use, like how you want to continue, like how you would want to use Figma in tandem with Shapes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I believe you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Michael. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find Michael both on LinkedIn, on Twitter. So
in our Discord channel.
Or Discord channel, of course. So you can still ask for there. We're gonna start recruiting people there, and I think we are closing up.
Please don't DM me on Discord though if you want me to reply.
and we are also wrapping up. So one question is, anything else you want to add, Inga, Michael? What are you
really-
excited for the next 6 months? Where is Shapes headed?
First of all, we will totally have to look back and see like what worked. And I'm so grateful for the team and the community. I mean, it's so much inspiration coming from our users who are sharing how they're using. So my only call to our users, I don't know why I keep hearing echo. So it's that if you build something in Shape that is not confidential, and many of people use it for real production projects, just share it to inspire other people. And for us, it's so great when we see what people are building, how they're using ShapesXR. Feel free to reach out to join the Discord channel. Next 6 months are going to be extensive because we want to make Shapes an essential part of your pipeline to really work closely on like retention and, making sure that it brings true value to professionals. And we already had refinement session of what's coming next, but we will be reaching out to our users to make sure that it's the most relevant, the most highly awaited things.
Michael.
Quick on Discord's a great place to post stuff, but don't DM me on Discord. Other than that, we'll definitely check all the channels on Discord. Going forward, next 6 months of Shapes. I think it's like increasing the fidelity of what you can create in Shapes through stuff like, color picker, interactivity, so you can kind of like get more of your idea out. And then the other thing is also just increasing usability, increasing the usability of Shapes. So making certain things easier, making them more intuitive. There are certain things that might take like 5 clicks, and we're making, streamlining it.
Indeed. And I think it's an evolving process. It's indeed an evolving process. Stay tuned. But nonetheless, I mean, it's great right now. You have seen what was happening here. You can meet in mixed reality with your team. And if there is just one thing that I think you should go ahead and do is download Shapes, try the design process space that Michael has built to get an impression really and learn also about the design process, see that in mixed reality, see the recorded avatar, and in general get inspired to invite others and see it together. Maybe have a conversation, maybe make some changes.
There was someone who mentioned that they were doing prototyping in tools like Blender and Unity, and I'm like super curious to hear about like how you do that and how you would like use Shapes, or how you check that in VR and like stuff like that. Super interesting to us.
And also want to inspire everyone Shapes is accessible and whatever, but you still need, let's say, someone to become the power user in a matter of, let's say, 1 hour. No, probably it's not really 1 hour, but anyway. So we've built the lesson with recorded avatar of Jeremy Casper, who is making onboarding sessions with our users. And I do believe that if you complete this lesson with Jeremy, you will become really very close to become a powerful user. But it's totally unlock you so many kind of power of ShapesXR. Just check it out in the lobby in lesson section tutorial. Top right.
So design process and onboarding video tutorial. The word is your oyster. Do you want to upskill yourself, change your career? There is no better moment of going ShapesXR. Start living in what are these apps? What are these? And start building. So thank you very much, Inga. Thank you very much, Michael. And thanks everybody that asked so many questions. It was a pleasure to be here. Bye, Inga. Bye, Michael.
Thank you very much, Gabriele, for inviting us.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, last time was 1 year ago. Bye.
You make me sound like an ungrateful host.
No, you are. It's just a huge competition. I know that. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, then.
Cheers.